Let me start off by greeting you, Mr. Speaker, and allow me to wish you a very happy birthday. I am saddened by the fact that the honorable members, and myself included, did not get to sing, but I hope that we'll be able to after this. And let me greet and compliment you as well in this new season as you continue to facilitate this honorable house to make laws that will change the lives of Botswana for the better. I continue to wish you all the best. I greet all of my honorable members and I thank them for the meaningful contributions that they've made towards this budget shared. I thank God always for an opportunity to meaningfully contribute to the development of my country, and today specifically, I thank God for the opportunity to contribute to resource allocation, which is the foundation on which Botswana's future stands. Allow me to thank in his absentia the Vice President and Minister of Finance, Honorable Ndaba Sanitary, and his team for laboring so hard in delivering this comprehensive speech under unfavorable circumstances. Their dedication to fostering unity and prosperity across Botswana is much appreciated. Now allow me to dive right into it, Mr. Speaker, by starting with one of my favorite aspects of the budget speech, and that is child welfare and basic education. I happily welcome the 300 Pula monthly allowance that will be provided to newborns until they are 1 year old. This development, Mr. Speaker, when unlayered, has a ripple effect as it also advances gender equity by virtue of assisting mothers who find themselves living in poverty and, moreover, mothers who find themselves having to raise these babies by themselves. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, in its entirety, this development is this government's concrete stance to upholding human rights, the most precious one being the right to live. This support being given to our babies will cushion them and give them an opportunity to live, to see and experience the beauty of their Botswana. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate how this budget showcases the unwavering commitment to the overall welfare of our little ones. Having proposed the second largest share of the ministerial recurrent budget to this ministry, I find that investing in children is the most proactive thing that a government can do to secure a viable future for society, a viable future for our economy, for the upkeep of the legacy that which our forefathers fought for. Moreover, from the stance of the minister responsible for youth development, I find that fostering an environment conducive to the holistic development of children is not only a sensibly humane thing, Mr. Speaker, it is a proactive way of curbing all social ills amongst youth and adults. Mr. Speaker, the youth of Botswana are burdened by childhood traumas. They are burdened by mental health issues, by unstable mindsets and unsustainable mindsets that were instilled in them from birth. They are burdened by drug and substance abuse as a coping mechanism to overwhelming challenges. They're faced with qualifications on fields that are not fit for purpose in this economy. It goes on and on and on. And by investing in this comprehensive education of children, an education that fosters their cognitive, emotional, mental, social, and physical well-being and development, an education that is fit for purpose, we are actively making strides towards creating a healthy and viable youthful life for our children. It is why I commend the Vice President for having made this a priority and why I declare my unwavering confidence in and support to my dear colleague, the Minister of Child Welfare and Basic Education, as we build a Botswana where children are free to be children, a Botswana where the same children are given the power to dream, to believe, and to take charge of their future. Mr. Speaker, I now speak to social justice in accordance with the Vision 2036 pillar of achieving prosperity for all. I am thrilled about the Bonno Housing Initiative, which will address the housing needs of low and middle income households, thereby facilitating home ownership and improving the living standards for many Botswana. I have full confidence that we will indeed create a society where everyone, regardless of their background or circumstances, has access to basic necessities, including the very important necessity of shelter. And we do so as we strive for a higher quality of life, holistically higher quality of life for the entire population. Mr. Speaker, still on social welfare, the increment of the old age pension from 830 pula to 1,400 pula per month. As I was preparing for this part of my response, Mr. Speaker, I decided to call my grandmother and have a take on what she said. Allow me to quote her briefly.
Please do.
Are, molaletsi molaletsi, modimo a se go gatse tauto na boko. Molaletsi is a family name that she often refers to every time she is in awe or in shock. And I quote this amongst the many things that she said because this is my 91-year-old grandmother who validates and commends the effort of this government. Good efforts that will continue to grow. Good efforts that, as Mr. Vice President always says, will continue to grow until we have led our people to the promised land. It gives me great joy to know that this increment will provide better financial security and dignity to our citizens, our senior citizens who often have to take care of our little ones in this economy. Mr. Speaker, offering of free sanitary pads. I love this one too. Dearly love it. It will ease the lives of our girls and improve the overall health and well-being of schools by supporting gender inclusivity and fostering a healthy learning environment. When our school girls are unable to access the health and sanitary necessities they need, it tends to create mental challenges like health and create mental and emotional challenges ranging from feelings of anxiety and distress, but it also tends to create physical challenges like health and reproductive infections. This lack of access mostly affects low-income societies and families in particular, thus making it challenging for them to menstruate hygienically and with dignity. This lack of access, Mr. Speaker, has left our girls resorting to unsanitary methods of managing their periods, such as prolonging use of pads or even using rags as pads, and this is completely unacceptable. I am therefore pleased with this initiative as it underscores our commitment to addressing gender disparities and social injustice, and especially because moving forward, no girl will miss out on educational opportunities due to menstrual challenges.
Clarification.
Granted, Minister.
Clarification on Dr. Modise.
Thank you very much, Minister Chombo. Ke rata thata ka ha o e tshwereng ka teng, especially when you talk about the health of young ladies and also improving on their dignity. Thank you very much.
Ke a leboga tona, ke dumela gore re tla tswella re ntse re bereka towards improving the health of all Botswana as a whole and for biased reasons for young girls. I now move on, Mr. Speaker, to technical and vocational education and training, TVET. We have reached a point in Botswana where education and unemployment often feel disconnected, with a high output of graduates and yet with rising numbers of unemployment and oftentimes the necessity to import skills for available opportunities. It is in this time, Mr. Speaker, that vocational and technical education and training stands as a critical bridge, a bridge that will prepare our youth with the practical skills and knowledge that they need to succeed. Mr. Speaker, technical and vocational training and education is not merely a stepping stone to a specific career. It is an investment in lifelong learning and personal growth. The skills and knowledge acquired through TVET are often diverse and transferable across industries, and this, Mr. Speaker, will enable our young people to adapt to evolving job market demands and to pursue new opportunities throughout their career, thus curbing the unemployment ill that we are faced with. The unique approach that TVET offers, Mr. Speaker, directly aligns with industry needs and will thus foster greater job readiness and economic mobility. The emphasis on practical skill development and hands-on training will prepare our youth for immediate entry into the workforce, as they will have specialized skills and knowledge for the practical demands of the workplace. And this, Mr. Speaker, has clearly been a gap which currently exists, and we are happy about the TVET initiative and advancement that will bridge this gap. I therefore commend and reaffirm the Vice President's remarks of building an economy with TVET at its heart. I reaffirm the need to do it right, not only to build an economy with TVET at its heart, but an economy that is doing it right, so that the gaps that exist may be filled. Mr. Speaker, doing it right will require us to implement industry-specific training, to design programs in collaboration with industry experts, ensuring that the curriculum aligns with the current workforce demands and technological advancements. This close industry connection is exactly what will make our graduates highly employable with the relevant skills to excel in this economy. I further, Mr. Speaker, reaffirm the need to change our people's perception of TVET institutions. Mr. Speaker, there's an example that I often give with regards to entrepreneurship, and it's that as a child, this country did not teach us to be entrepreneurs. And I'd like to give that example with regards to TVET as well. We were taught to go to primary school, go to junior secondary school, go to senior secondary school, an engineer, psychologist, teacher, nurse, and thereafter to get a job in that related field. Rarely could you ever hear a child encouraged to consider technical and vocational education and training unless they did not meet the requirements of universities. TVET was reduced to training for students who did not perform well, and thus had been given that stigma as well. And this is such a misfortune, Mr. Speaker. It is a misfortune because when done right, TVET is the exact bridging gap that Botswana needs. And I therefore agree, Mr. Speaker, with the narrowing of allowances between TVET institutions and those of other tertiary institutions, as well as resourcing TVET institutions with infrastructure, the necessary, adequate, effective infrastructure, as well as qualified lecturers.
Clarification.
Go ahead.
Clarification, Mother of the House.
Thank you very much for allowing me to this clarification. Nekere o bua ka the narrowing. How when go ne gore go ba tle ba tshwane. Is ka nna narrowing ba tshwane tota. Ka ba nna mo gaborone mo ba nna go Fransana go motshudi mo ba reka mo dishopong di le dingwe hela gore mme ala wense e se ka narrowiwa e tshwane. Ke a leboga mothetso.
Mr. Chombo.
Mother of the House, ke a dumalana. Ke dumalana hela thata. When we speak of equity and equality, these are the things that we speak of. When we speak of inclusion, these are the things that we speak of. So I firmly agree with you that tota e thoka gore e tshwane. But given the limited financial means we're faced with, it's a starting step. It is a starting step gore re simolla ka go narrowa, but the ideal model is that di tshwanetse go tshwana. So I thank you for that. Mr. Speaker, I now move to public-private partnerships. And I rise in full support of the government's initiative to leverage public-private partnerships, as they are a key mechanism for accelerating national development. This is a forward-thinking and pragmatic approach that acknowledges both our financial constraints and the immense potential of strategic private sector collaboration. Mr. Speaker, the upcoming public-private partnership bill set to be finalized and presented in the 2025-2026 financial year is a critical step in ensuring that these partnerships are well-structured, that they are transparent, and that they are aligned with national priorities. With a robust legal framework in place, we will attract high-quality investments, we will enhance service delivery, and we will drive sustainable economic growth. Public-private partnerships will not only ease the fiscal burden on government, but will also unlock new opportunities for infrastructure development, which all of our honorable members have been reiterating that we so desperately need in our country. It will unlock new opportunities for job creation and for skills transfer. And so by engaging both domestic and international investors, we can harness innovation, efficiency, and expertise that will propel Botswana towards its goal of becoming a competitive and resilient economy. But, Mr. Speaker, I must emphasize that for public-private partnerships to be truly transformative, they must actively include and empower young people and women. Too often, development models are structured in ways that leave out those who need economic opportunities the most. And we must ensure that these partnerships prioritize youth employment, entrepreneurship, and skills development by encouraging, firstly, the private sector partners to invest in youth-focused projects, creating training programs, creating mentorship opportunities, and employment pipelines for our young people. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, by ensuring that women-owned businesses have access to these partnership opportunities so that they can contribute and benefit from national development. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, by mandating gender-sensitive infrastructure and development, ensuring that projects address the needs of women, such as access to health care, safety, and equal participation in economic activities. Mr. Speaker, our youth are brimming with potential. Our women are the backbone of our communities. And if we design these partnerships with inclusivity in mind, we will not only build infrastructure, but we will build a future of shared prosperity, a future of equality and sustainable growth. This initiative is indeed a game changer for Botswana, and I fully endorse this government's commitment to institutionalizing public-private partnerships as a pillar of our development agenda. With the right policies, oversights, and execution and inclusion, this model will position our nation for sustained prosperity. And in the same breath, Mr. Speaker, the sentiments that I have just shared about public-private partnerships apply to the anticipated mega projects. While these projects will indeed go a long way in creating employment for Botswana at large, we must, I repeat, we must ensure that they benefit the vast majority of unemployed youth and that room is made to fill in unemployment gender gaps. I now speak to a very important one, Mr. Speaker, which the previous honorable member was stressing on, and that is waste management. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Vice President when he says that corruption has become an impediment to the achievement of our people's aspirations. And it goes without saying that inter alia, the review of our current procurement model and revision and approval of the draft national anti-corruption policy are much needed, as corruption has been a key barrier to effective service delivery and has been a key barrier to our economic development. Ke kgang e leng gore rotlhe re le batlotlegi ebile rotlhe re le Batswana re dumalana mo go yone. And what is saddening about it, Mr. Speaker, is that it does not only undermine the rule of law, which we so dearly cherish, but it also disproportionately affects the most vulnerable people in society, increasing inequality and deepening their disadvantage. And this, Mr. Speaker, is definitely not the Botswana that we ought or aspire to leave for our children. So as we fight against this injustice, Mr. Speaker, it is critical that we set the tone from the top. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to urge everyone in this honorable House and all those in leadership positions to apply the thought, the effort, and the commitment that is required for our corruption prevention strategies to succeed. I further urge, Mr. Speaker, senior executives to use the authority positively by ensuring that corruption prevention controls operate effectively and efficiently with due compliance. And beyond anti-corruption measures, I believe that we need to robustly and generally manage waste. And this will require us all to critically shift from the mindset of entitlement and adopt a mindset which is preservative. ke ete ke botse gore hana madi a aga goromente ele a gago wa bereketse ka thata a o ne wa go a irisa yaka wa irisa yaka o irisa ga goromente. And we all ought to reflect on this, that are we spending government's money the way we would spend our very own? Would we fail to manage our own hard-earned resources and let them go through back holes? I highly doubt, Mr. Speaker. And so it starts today with a shift of mindsets, and it also starts with being alive to the reality that all our small actions combined have a much larger impact. I spoke about how this needs to have the tone set from the top, but before we think that waste management can only be controlled from the top, let me highlight the imperative role that we can all play at individual level. It starts with day-to-day actions, Mr. Speaker, like switching off the lights in our offices. It starts with managing our use of paper, the bottles that are put in front of the honorable members and that are always put at government engagements. It starts with ensuring that you finish that bottle before you take up another one. Simple day-to-day actions which, when applied collectively and sustainably by all civil servants and all of Botswana, will save us pulas that can and will be put into good use. And just to point it out as a side note, Mr. Speaker, the good use that I speak of is to create employment and develop my very own constituents. I now speak to youth and gender affairs. Mr. Speaker, this budget is in the right direction in terms of youth and gender mainstreaming. You will realize that throughout my delivery, I have, without specifically noting the initiatives or budget in the Ministry of Youth and Gender Affairs, I have highlighted the initiatives that foster gender equity, as well as youth development and employment, initiatives that are to be implemented by other ministries. And that, Mr. Speaker, is the mainstreaming that we speak of. We desire a government and a country which fully realizes the Vision 2036 pillar of human social development by promoting social inclusion and gender equality, a society and an administration where gender issues ranging from education, violence, health, funding are realized, and likewise, youth issues ranging from job creation, training, skills development, reproductive health, and many others are provided for. We are building a nation where all the comprehensive youth and gender issues are fully integrated into the core mandate of every ministry and every institution. We have begun, Mr. Speaker, with strategic conversations with various ministries and institutions to induct and train them on both portfolios, as well as to map the gaps that these ministries and institutions ought to fill. We, Mr. Speaker, are expecting all of these ministries to intentionally be gender sensitive and youth conscious. To this end, we will hold everyone accountable to the interventions they ought to implement as we build a Botswana led by peace and security for all. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to now specifically commend this budget for recognizing the attention that the gender portfolio requires, as well as affirming that gender-based violence is a phenomenon against which we must all commit. This is the political will that Botswana needs. Allow me to share with this honorable House that in response to this political will, the Interministerial Committee on Gender-Based Violence set on the 21st of January 2025, and this committee consists of the Minister for Child Welfare and Basic Education, Health, Justice and Correctional Services, Higher Education, Local Government and Traditional Affairs, Finance, and is chaired by myself from the Ministry of Youth and Gender Affairs. Mr. Speaker, anchored by the Ministry of Youth and Gender Affairs, the Interministerial Committee will implement this multi-sectoral approach that is required to fully tackle this evil. And I thank all of the honorable members in this House who have shown true commitment to fighting gender-based violence in their very own corners. I further commend, Mr. Speaker, the separation of the MySec former MySec ministry into that of youth and gender affairs and that of sport and arts. The first ministry of youth will, amongst others, provide for the full and holistic development of young people into the ideal citizens we want them to be. Previously, Mr. Speaker, MySec was so overwhelmed, it prioritized sport development and art or creative sector. And we find that we have young people who do not model the ideal young Botswana that we want to see. We do not have young people who have had access to developmental opportunities as Botswana should actually offer those developmental opportunities. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Youth will provide that holistic development, while that of sport and arts will get these young people to fully focus on cultivating their talent. And Mr. Speaker, in this budget, I also support the specific coverage of sectors that directly affect youth, starting with sport development, where there's an increased dedication to foster talent and promote healthy lifestyles. Sport development has proven to be one of the best ways to engage young people, to build their character, to instill discipline, to keep them away from social ills such as crime, violence, as well as substance abuse. And sport has also proven to be a great career, which can lead our young people to financial security. I'm very glad that as we speak on this, we have our very own superstar, Litsi Leteboho, who validates everything good about sport, reaffirming the need to invest in it more than we have before from the ground up, and not only after realizing our sportsmen and sportswomen's achievements. I support the attention given to the creative industry to optimize the entire ecosystem and to explore enacting legislation that enables creatives to monetize the digital space. And I can confirm, Mr. Speaker, that this will be well received by us, the young people, and will change many lives despite their socio-economic background, as the digital space has transformed to uphold diversity in its purest form. Indeed, the time has come to export our culture through various creative means, and I, Mr. Speaker, am a testament of the weight that this initiative carries, having represented my beautiful country at the prestigious Miss World competition 11 months ago, and having witnessed the value that it has added to my life, to my community, to my country. It is with the same experience, Mr. Speaker, that I note how we are lagging behind in terms of the infrastructure necessary to support creatives. And I hereby offer my full commitment to playing an integral role in developing the said infrastructure effectively. Mr. Speaker, I was in Maung this past weekend, and the main reason for my trip was to go to Shorobe for the community work that I do. It would therefore be remiss of me if I did not mention the need to fix the road from Maung to Shorobe, leading up to many other places which are tourism destinations. This is the A3 road that leads to Moremi Game Reserve. It is a key road to Chobe National Park. It is the Maung access road for many villages, including Sekaka, Sankoyo, Kwai, Mababe, Tselengkore mobile safari and self-drive tourists use and they use it further up into the Delta. And Mr. Speaker, it is very imperative that as we speak of this inclusion in all of our advancements and developments, we ensure that we cater for those communities as an attempt to promote social equity. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I believe that the national budget, as presented by the Vice President and Minister of Finance, Honorable Ndabankosinati Gaolate, serves as a crucial instrument for steering our country's financial planning, ensuring efficient resource allocation, and setting a strategic course for restoring Botswana's economic stability and growth. Given the current state of our financial affairs, fiscal discipline and accountability are more critical than ever. Transparency and public finance is essential more than ever so that we can build trust in government institutions and ensure that every pula is accounted for. The budget, Mr. Speaker, acts as a fundamental tool to uphold this financial integrity, to reduce inefficiencies, and to prevent financial misconduct which this government very much stands against. This budget notably prioritizes key sectors, Mr. Speaker, that are essential, including social development, education, infrastructure, security, job creation, governance, and oversight. Investments in these areas are not only vital for economic or our immediate economic recovery, but also for fostering long-term economic growth and resilience. And I therefore urge all of us to recognize the importance in our very own corners of prudent financial management through efficient revenue collection and responsible expenditure management in order to achieve this country's broader economic goals. I believe that with proper implementation and oversight, Mr. Speaker, this budget will be instrumental in driving our nation towards sustainable growth and the financial stability that our beautiful Botswana so deserves. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.